China notes Russia's current situation and decouples from the US. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine has gone well beyond the 30-day mark, Russia has now reached out to its allies, requesting ample aid as it faces significant challenges on both its military and economic front lines. The world continues to pressure Russia to put a stop in this current conflict, and it seems to be giving yet another global superpower in the form of China plenty of leverage and room to move around. The question is, what will China do? Basing on recent development, let's take a look at China noting Russia's current situation decoupling from the US. You've tuned in to Crypto World. Thanks for hitting that like and subscribe buttons. The Russia-Ukraine conflict. The issue of the Russo-Ukrainian War has been a significant conflict in the Eastern European region since 2014, with the former Soviet territory Ukraine and its people opting further into a more democratic society and a preference on NATO and the West than its neighboring Russia. This has caused plenty of friction with the two countries, leading to the ongoing acts of Russian invasion of Ukraine, which began on the 24th of February 2022. However, despite claims that it would be a swift military campaign for various reasons that Kremlin itself had proclaimed, such as the denazification of Ukraine or the annexation of further pro-Russian territories within Ukraine, this invasion has stretched out farther than Kremlin expected. Numerous reports have indicated that despite the expected dominant military capabilities of the Russian military, the opposite has been more evident, with massive losses in both military personnel and armada from the Russian camp, proving doubts over Russia's overall capabilities. From a lack of overall strategy, a number of top Russian leadership casualties to confused soldiers who now apparently have been sabotaging their own equipment and surrendering instead of retreating and facing punishment upon their return, the Russian military has been licking its wounds over the past few weeks. Russia didn't expect Ukraine's staunch stand to defend their homeland, or the support that Ukraine would receive from around the world, both through armaments, equipment, and aid of all forms. While Ukrainians of all sorts, from its own military and civilians, teachers, artists, both male and female, young and old, have come out from their homes to the front lines to defend Ukraine. They've been equipping themselves with just whatever they could find. From old World War I pistols to homemade Molotov cocktails, Ukrainians have been defending with whatever they could. And with support from empathizing countries, military aid has proven to be a notable benchmark that has strengthened Ukrainian defense. This includes rifles and ammunition, drones and anti-tank artillery, to shoulder-strapped anti-air defense weapons that have proven more than significant to holding the Russian forces back. Every day, we hear reports of the tanks and personnel that Russia have been losing, and how, despite the endless shelling and attacks, Ukrainians have been taking back their territories and towns one by one. This has led to a demoralizing wave for the Russian military, to a point that Russians have been shooting down their own military aircrafts, albeit accidentally. And while the Russian people as a whole seem to be supporting Putin's agenda, Ukrainian people led by President Zelensky continue to raise hope and spirit as they still face the behemoth of a challenge. Despite the unexpected show of defensive force, Russia continues its offensive on Ukraine, with Putin now conscripting more than 130,000 military personnel through a draft, seemingly to replace the losses this campaign continues to incur. Economic concerns for Russia. With the current Russia-Ukraine conflict heightening worldwide anxieties, the economic toll of this action is proving to be quite a blow to a global economy that is still reeling from the global pandemic. Ukraine and Russia are two of the largest food baskets in the world, supplying a quarter of the world's wheat exports. Past the 30-day mark, we already feel the effects of this war. From record-breaking gas prices worldwide to the compounding of a global food crisis that is cause for great concern. Reports indicate that this is causing Ukraine's economy to shrink by 20% in 2022, with Russian economy projected to slump down by 10%. Strict sanctions on Russia over its invasion have set off supply shocks and steep currency devaluation, with the Russian ruble being worth less than 1 US cent before February ended. Within the country itself, Russian citizens have now been facing a soaring up of costs. with most common ingredients such as sugar, vegetables, and others spiking up by 40%. Russian inflation is expected to average to 20% this year, marking the first time since the collapse of the Soviet Union 3 decades ago that the country's economy has slumped. However, despite these economic setbacks, Russia continues with its current drive with the intentions of its leadership, ushering in a new era of geopolitical uncertainty. Russia asks for aid. While Ukraine, seemingly supported by a global audience, as well as proponents of the West, amplify its defensive stance day by day, Russia has also been trying its best to entice its more known allies into the fray. Aside from the participation of Belarus, which is already a known Russian ally, reports have indicated that Russia has asked China for military and economic aid. It's been mentioned that Moscow has asked China for aid through military weapons and others, without any specifics or any detailed reaction made by China in response to the requests. The reports also indicated that Russia has also asked China for additional economic assistance to help counteract the battering of the Russian economy due to broad sanctions imposed by the US, European, and Asian nations. Other reports also noted that China had already decided on providing economic aid and even possible military equipment assistance to Russia. A report from The Guardian indicated that U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan gathered intelligence after meeting with his Chinese counterpart Yang Jiechi. Moreover, the Russian military has been eyeing Chinese support in the form of armed drones and various forms of ammunition, with military transfers expected to be less than straightforward. In terms of economic and financial aid, Moscow expects China to provide immediate assistance as Russia faced the danger of default on its debt payments in mid-March, with Moscow still unable to access its $640 billion in gold and foreign exchange reserves. Fortunately for Russia, they still have access to their reserves in yuan Beijing. It can be noted that President Xi Jinping of China has a strong and friendly relationship with Mr. Putin. In fact, a Western intelligence report indicated that Chinese officials had some direct knowledge of Putin's war intent and had requested not to initiate the invasion until after the end of the Winter Olympics in Beijing, held in early February. Despite this relationship, however, China continues to echo the global sentiment for peace and wishes to prevent the tense situation from escalating or getting out of control, according to officials. It's important to note that China has been the alternative destination for Russian businesses to conduct global monetary transactions after Russian banks were banned from the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, or SWIFT. This brought on Russia's pivot to China for payment alternatives such as China's UnionPay, which is used in 180 countries. This seems like a scenario that favors Beijing, which would gladly take in business from Russia, taking in huge fees for transactions despite the limited gains for Russian companies. China's move. It seems that while everyone has been focused on Ukraine and Russia, China has been closely watching its close ally and has denied reports saying that Russia has asked for military support. And while Russia and China both have more ties with each other than the West, from its communist foundations to its authoritarian governments, the current Chinese regime has been aggressively positioning itself as a global power. This Russian act of invasion has prompted debilitating sanctions, global isolation, and a wave of discontent that China surely doesn't want to burden itself with. This is why, over the last few weeks, the US and the EU have been adamantly warning China not to come to Russia's aid. In the middle of March, US President Joe Biden held talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping to make it clear that China will bear responsibility for any actions it takes to support Russia's aggression, and that there would be immense costs to such actions. And while the West keeps its eye over China's next move, Chinese Foreign Ministry have put down these inclinations by claiming disinformation. It seems that any action on China's part will prove to be a significant factor to this issue that only history can tell. And as this current crisis continues to lengthen, it's vastly becoming a global issue with looming inflation, recession, food shortages, and the global economic impact of this Russian military aggression proving to be more than anyone would want to chew. As superpowers China and India seemingly have stayed afoot before, particularly choosing a particular side in the Ukraine war, we can only pray that no further escalation occurs, as this would not only impact the development of the present, but of humanity's future. So what do you think about the points presented? Let us know in the comments below. For more research on financial global matters, click that like button and subscribe to Crypto World.